Maureen came. She's here to help us. I don't know about you folks, but I know I have stress in my life. I think it'd be crazy to believe that we don't all suffer from stress at some point or another from different forms, and there's lots of those. So Maureen's going to help us with some pointers on how to deal with all of that. And so I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Is this volume okay? So let me know if you can't.
Hold it close.
Hold it close, better? Okay. I don't like microphones, but I don't like yelling, so this is the best I can do. Well, thank you for having me. I started putting together this presentation because I'm a mental health therapist in town. I specialize in several things, but some of them are anxiety and panic and medical trauma, so I thought this group might be a good one to talk to. And most of my clients end up with a specific toolkit along with therapy. And I thought I would be sharing this toolkit more with people because I think all of us are just a little more stressed these days than we used to be. So, and while I'm talking, we're gonna do something with food and towards the end. And this handsome young man over here, who might be my husband, is gonna bring you by either a few raisins or a few crackers. If you can eat either of those, just hang on to them and we'll work with them. And if you can't eat those and there's something in the back you want, that's fine too. But that'll be towards the end. Okay. And then if you did want to contact me later, I have cards up here if you want them. Okay, so first question for you is stress or worry ever helpful?
No.
No? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Why don't you hold the mic a little closer?
Hold it closer.
It's not
Better.
projecting all the way to that.
Okay, yeah.
You gotta hold that thing close toward the word.
All right. So we have some yes and no's if stress or worry is helpful. Actually, so the answer is yes. Stress and worry can be helpful. It's just a matter of how much and how long, right? So can you all see this, or do we need to change the lights?
It's okay.
It's okay? Okay. So on the left side of this, so right here is like your perfect place where you're just in your stride, you're on task. It's the perfect amount of stress. Over here, I like to call this smoking pot in the basement. So this is where you just have no motivation, don't want to do anything. So we actually need a little stress to perform well, to remember things, to take tests, to give talks. Okay, and then over here we start to move into panic and stress and burnout. Okay, so the tools I'm going to teach you is to try to back this back into gear. Make sense? And for your group, I just want to share, you guys have a special Venn diagram of having heart issues and stress. So I don't know how many here have had a heart attack, but any kind of medical event can be similar to having a post-traumatic stress disorder. And your thoughts about what lies ahead can become more anxious because of that experience. So I'm not saying, and along with that, what do panic attacks feel like? Like heart problems, right? For a lot of people. Okay, so I'm not saying do this, don't go to the doctor. I'm only giving you the stress piece, so do all your doctor things, please. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a model of the brain and what stress and anxiety does to it and how we're going to work with it. So if you make a fist and you look at it sideways, this is what your brain looks like if it's cut in half. Okay? So your arm part, this part right here, this is your, it's the oldest part of our brain, and it's where the fight, flight, or freeze comes from. So is everybody familiar with fight, flight, or freeze? Okay, so if a tiger, a long time ago when our brains were first evolving, if a tiger was chasing you, you need to fight it off, run away from it, or play dead. And so all of that, us have that reaction. Your thumb is what's called the amygdala. That's where your emotions are. And this top part, it's hard to hold it together. This part is the prefrontal cortex, and that's the modern part of the brain that gives us logic and compassion and lets us step back and go, oh wait, there's no tiger, it's okay, calm down. When we get upset with our amygdala, it goes right down to our brainstem, and it says fight, flight, or freeze. this part of our brain goes offline. So when we're upset or stressed, we actually don't have our modern brain at the moment. Okay, so if you're in a relationship with someone, a little key, if they start flipping out, they actually have flipped their lid, they don't have a brain, give them 20 minutes to get it back, because you're not going to have a logical conversation. And this happens to every human being. And so the stuff I'm going to talk about today is how we soothe ourselves so that our brain comes back online. Okay. Normally it takes 20 minutes on its own, and we can speed that up a little bit. Okay. Questions?
There's a lady over there.
There's a lady over there. Yes, ma'am.
I am actually having a hard time seeing that. I don't know if it's
Turn the lights down.
Yeah. Is that better? Okay. Okay. So this is a model, if you're into it, it's called cognitive behavioral therapy. This is grad school in one slide, if you're a therapist. So I'm going to walk you through the model, and then we're going to work it together. So what this shows is that our thoughts influence our emotions, which influence our behavior, which influences our thoughts, which influence our, right? Just go around a circle, okay? So it's very difficult to just change our emotions. Because if I could just tell you, don't worry about it, nobody would be in this room with me, right? Okay. What we do have control over are our thoughts and our behaviors. And I'm going to talk about some ways to work with those. So we're going to start with behaviors. So how do we tell our brain that everything's okay? That there's no tiger running after us, the boss just gave us a funny look and walked by, and we've lost our brain. How do we get ourselves to calm down? So the first thing that we can do is work with breathing. How many folks have done diaphragmatic breathing? Couple? Okay, so these are your role models, folks. When we breathe correctly, it tells our nervous systems that everything is okay. So when we're anxious and when we're scared, where does our breath come from? Yeah, way up here. And we're like inhaling a lot, right? Okay, so if we can interrupt that process, we can actually get our nervous system to calm down and get our brain back. So, here's a little model. So I want you guys to try it with me. So everybody, if you would, put your hands on your belly and think of your belly like a balloon. And when you breathe in, you want to breathe all the way down into your belly so that on the inhale, it sticks out like our little rabbit friend here. Okay? And then when you exhale, the belly comes back in. So give that a few tries and see how that feels. If you get dizzy, stop or do it for less long. And then just give me a little signal when you kind of got it, because we'll take the next step when you're ready. Most people are going. Okay. Okay. So when we're scared, we're breathing rapidly and we're mostly inhaling. So the trick here is the exhale. The exhale is what tells us we're okay. So I'm going to count with you. Again, if you get dizzy, just stop. Usually when we get dizzy, it's because we've never done this before and our brain's like, whoa, that's a lot of oxygen. So don't worry about it. Just breathe normally. So if you could, hands on belly, feet on the floor. And then I'd like you to inhale through your nose and out through your mouth, and I'll count with you, okay? So if you could inhale, 2, 3, and exhale through your mouth, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, and exhale through your mouth, 2, 3, 4. And one more. Inhale, 2, 3, and out, 2, 3, 4. What do you notice having done that? Calming, more relaxed. Anybody feel more in their body than they were when they started? Okay. So that one's, I suggest that folks practice that often, because when you need it, you forget how to do it. So if you practice it regularly, Some people put a ping on their phone and they'll do it a couple times a day, or they'll do it before they go to sleep. So when you need it, it's more natural. Okay. So I'm gonna, was there a question?
Well, I do it before I go to sleep, and it's like I'm asleep like that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Mary says she does it before she goes to sleep and it puts her right to sleep. I have a lot of people who do that. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna show you a souped up version if you wanna try it. So anything we do that crosses the body also calms the nervous system. That's why hugging is kind of nice. So if you're willing, and you physically can, if you can cross your right leg over your left, and then cross your, can someone demonstrate with me? Because I can't hold the mic at the same time. Who thinks they're coordinated and can hop up here? Come on up here, would you? Oh.
Oh, here comes something.
Thank you. Okay, so y'all can do this seated, but you can help me, Sheila?
Sure, yes.
Okay, so cross your right leg over your left, and then your left arm over your right, and then clasp, okay, yeah, and then clasp your hands together. Exactly, yeah. And then pull them up.
That's the yoga
If you
pose.
can. If you can't, it's okay. Thank you, that's great.
That's a yoga pose.
Yeah.
Eagle arms.
Eagle arms, okay. I didn't know that's what called. Okay, so eagle arms. If you can do it, if you can't do it, you can kind of hug yourself and cross. It doesn't matter which is right or left, it's just if they're opposite. And then do a few more belly breaths in this position. Okay, so in, 2, 3, and out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, and out, 2, 3, 4. How's that for folks? Some people find that even more calming, so you'll have to see what works for you. Okay, so breathing is one of the tools in our toolkits. Do it often. Well, we always breathe, but breathe into your diaphragm often. Okay. So another thing that happens, has anybody had the experience when they get really anxious or panicky, they just feel spaced out and they just have trouble being home and present? Does that sound familiar to anybody? A few people over here? Okay. What happens when we're worried is we're thinking about the past or the future. So we're stressed out about something that happened, or we're trying to fix something that hasn't happened, right? So we want to come back to the now, because is everybody okay right now? Pretty much. Nothing terrible is happening. There's no tigers. Whatever problems are happening in an hour, you can't do anything about right now. Okay. So this is a great way to use our senses to come back to present, and we're going to have to kind of do this as a group because there's a lot of us. So what I'd like, it's called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And what I would like you to do, if you would, is to yourself, because there's a lot of you, look around the room and name to yourself 5 things that you see. So for example, I see a clock, I see a door, I see Sean passing out treats, I see the floor. Okay, so just look and name 5 to yourself. I love everybody's looking around. Okay, now listen for 5 things and name them to yourself. And if you have to repeat, because you can't find 5, that's okay. So I can hear the fan on the projector, I can hear myself talking, I can hear myself scratching on the desk. I hear the fan again. So just get to 5 however you can. Okay, so 5 things that you hear. Okay. And now name to yourself 5 things that you feel. And I don't mean feelings, I mean I can feel my hair on my neck, I can feel my feet on the floor. So tactile things you feel. 5 things. Everybody got it? Okay. So now we're going to drop to 4. So look around and notice 4 things that you see. And notice 4 things that you hear, and repeat if you have to. And notice 4 things that you feel. And you can repeat, it's fine. Okay, so we're going to drop to 3 things you see. And 3 things you hear. If you hear anything. 3 things you feel. Okay, now 2 of each, please. 2 things you see, 2 things you hear, 2 things you feel. And then 1 of each. Okay. Does anybody want to share what that's like for them or what they noticed? Yeah.
I felt like as we went down, my feelings especially disappeared.
Okay. Was there a hand over here? Oh.
I felt like I didn't have time to think of much else.
That's great. So the idea is that hopefully that we're more present. This is a great one to do. If anybody has panic attacks, it will ward it off pretty quickly. And in fact, panic attacks generally don't last as long as this takes. So for most people, if you can just know, I'm going to get through this process of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'll be calmer, it kind of keeps the panic attacks warded off. And usually people don't know you're doing it. I have a client who's a student and has a lot of fears about being in the classroom. And she'll just stare at her teacher and go, eyes, hair, mouth. And it looks like she's paying attention and she's able to stay regulated in class. So that's another one you can practice once in a while so you have it when you need it.
It's a lot easier to see things than it is to hear or feel them.
Okay, so for you, so yeah, Larry was saying it's easier for him to see than to hear or feel. And you can do, if you're around food or smells, you can add taste or smell. So whatever gets you here. Okay. So there's a couple behavioral things. Any questions on those? They seem simple and small, but if we keep practicing them, science actually shows that it thickens this part of our brain, and that coming back happens faster. Now that we have MRIs, we have these ways to measure these things. So it may seem silly, but, and they've studied meditators have like way thicker prefrontal cortexes than the rest of us. Oh, that's a picture of the crossing the legs and the feet. Okay. So the next part of this triangle is our thoughts. So we've done some behavior. So let's talk about thoughts. And I'm going to take you through this model the best way that I know how, which is to have someone here, if they're willing, either remember what it's like or pretend that they know what it's like to be a 12-year-old girl. Anybody want to come play with me up here? Some of you have been 12 in school. I'm just going to wait until somebody tells me they're young. Oh, come on in. Thank you. What? We've met before? No. Okay. What is your name? Rochelle. Okay, Rochelle, sorry. Okay, so Rochelle is going to be my 12-year-old girl subject here. Oops, I think we're blocking that. Oh, let's, okay, so we're going to walk through this model. So we're going to pretend that Rochelle is a 12-year-old girl, and she is in school, and her best friend walks down the hall, passes her, and doesn't say anything to her, okay? So if you're a 12-year-old girl and this happened, what might you think? So we're going to start at the top. What thought would you have that your friend didn't talk to you?
She doesn't like me anymore.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So then we follow this down to emotions. So how would that make you feel?
Sad, confused, depressed.
Okay. So you have this thought that you don't know is true, and we're sad, confused, and depressed, right? Okay. So then we go over to behaviors. So then what would you do?
I'd probably ask some other people what's going on.
Okay. Perfect, thank you. Okay, so then we drop down to the bottom here, where we look at our thoughts and we say, is it helpful? Is it true? And what are the odds? Okay. So your friend doesn't like you anymore. Is that a very helpful thought? Not so much. Is it true? We don't know, right? Now this is your good friend, so what are the odds that that thought is true?
At 12, I'd say the odds are high.
Okay. Okay. So the other way we'd know it is to check it out. But because we've had this thought that she doesn't like me anymore, your day's kind of ruined, and then you're running around checking that out with people and upsetting them, right? Okay. So what's another alternative thought you could have that would be a little more helpful and possibly more true?
She probably didn't see me.
Yeah. It's just as possible, right? Okay. So if she didn't see you, then what would your emotions be?
I'd probably feel a little better, but still wonder, I'd probably try to find her and talk to her.
Okay, yeah. Okay, but you're not sad and depressed and scared?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so you already did the behavior, so you still might talk to her and check in with her, but you haven't ruined your entire day, right? Okay. So does that make sense how this model works? Okay, thank you so much, Michelle. All right, so we have a choice here. I can give you one to work on for adults that you can think through with me, or you can all think through your own. Preference? I'll give you one? Okay. All right. So you haven't seen your doctor for a while. You get a voicemail that says, "This is your doctor's office, please call us." Okay. So who wants to volunteer their first thought when that happens?
I pay my bill.
Okay. I didn't pay my bill. Okay. What else might you think?
What's it gonna cost?
What's it gonna? Yeah. Okay. So if you didn't pay your bill, then your feeling is,
Oh my God.
oh my God, you're panicking. Okay. So then you do what?
I think I would phone back and see what was going on.
Okay. Perfect. Yep.
I'd say you saw something on my heart monitor.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So Michael says he saw something in my heart monitor, right? So then your feelings are.
I better call back.
Okay. What feeling do you have though?
I don't have a feeling until I know what's
Oh, okay. You're not. Okay.
It could be my heart monitor broke.
Okay.
That's more likely, actually.
Okay. Yeah. So let's take this one through because this is good. So Michael says maybe he found something on my heart monitor, and Michael's already gone to the more helpful thought, but let's go to the less helpful one in a moment. So the doctor calls and you think something's up with my heart monitor. Your feeling would be, if you're not Michael,
Anxious.
anxious. Yeah. And then you would do what? You call. Okay. So some people might like write their will out before they call. It depends on who you are. Or they call. They always call on a Friday, right? And then your weekend's ruined. Okay. So a more helpful thought might be, so the fact that he might have found something on the heart monitor, is that a helpful thought? Maybe. Is it true
Yeah, it's true.
that that's why they're calling?
Well, if he found something on the heart, if he leaves that message,
No, they just said call me.
oh,
Yeah.
No, actually, I got one of these.
Oh, you got one? Okay.
Yeah, and there was something on my heart monitor.
Okay. Yeah.
But it didn't, they said it didn't matter. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So you have this message from your doctor. What can be a little bit more helpful thought in the 5 minutes before you call them back and insist they pull him out of surgery to tell you what the hell's happening?
How do I feel right now?
Okay, yeah, I'm feeling okay right now, so, okay, and you had something?
I haven't had any symptoms, so.
Okay, good. I haven't had any symptoms, so maybe it's just about an appointment or, yeah.
I've
Other,
got plenty of drugs before I need to get it renewed, so I'm.
okay, I got my drugs, yeah. I think everyone in here has already handled the worst, right? Can't be worse than that. Okay. So, all of this is just to kind of talk about looking at our thoughts because we can scare ourselves pretty quickly without knowing it. So just kind of check in on what you're thinking and then ask those questions, is it helpful or is it true? Or what are the odds? What are the odds the doctor left me a voicemail because I'm about to die? Probably low. They probably...
Doctors never call about pills.
Yeah, there you go, doctors don't call about bills. There you go, feel better. All right, any questions on that? Okay, you guys are doing great, thanks. Okay, a couple other ways that humans can make ourselves anxious is, what this is called in grad school is thinking errors. I don't like the topic, what it's called, but basically it's just ways every human being thinks that make us stressed out. Okay, and the first one is black and white. This is like, the heater's blowing on me and I'm having a hot flash, so I'm going up here. Can you see if the first one is black and white thinking. So it's everything is good or bad. I'm healthy, I'm not healthy. It's gonna work out, it's not gonna work out, okay? So it's really important to see gray anytime you're nervous. Okay, the doctor called, I'm gonna die. Probably somewhere in between, I'm fine and I'm gonna die. Okay. Anybody have any other black and white thoughts that they've had? Yeah.
Another one is mind reading. Is
Yeah.
in here. And I know what that person's thinking.
Yeah, so,
You never know what someone's thinking.
yes, thank you.
People often think they do.
Yes, mind reading is one of them. I didn't put it on there, but mind reading is, like you said, I know what that person's thinking. So that 12-year-old in school already knows that her friend's mad at her, but she doesn't know that. Any other examples of black and white that you guys have had? Or you can think of? Yes?
If it wasn't urgent, he wouldn't have called.
Okay, the doctor called, so it's definitely urgent. Right, okay. I'm sorry?
Doctors don't call.
Oh, doctors don't, they never call. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so just watch yourself. When you've painted yourself into an all or nothing corner, there's no other choice than to be anxious. And so find that place in the middle, because it's never at one end or the other. Okay. For people that are anxious, I love people that run anxious, and I'm one of them. They are creative and they're smart. And when we use our creative and our smarts in good ways, it's fantastic. And when we don't, we scare ourselves. So the second one on there is what if. And so any sentence in your head that starts with what if you run anxious, is dangerous. So when you find yourself saying what if, just kind of stop it, because you're making up a story. Okay. Make sense to those of you that think this way? Yeah, okay. And the other is overestimating probability. So it's a little bit like the black and white of saying, well, I think the probable negative is going to be more than the probable positive. So really get real about your probabilities. That makes sense? I had someone in my office yesterday who has a lot of fears about being murdered. And when we talked about it, it turns out her father's a police officer in homicide. So we had to talk about the fact that her father's world is 100% murder, but most people's worlds are 0% murder, and kind of help her with her probability thinking. So this picture up here is another metaphoric tool. These are stepping stones. And people who tend to be anxious like to run scenarios. So how many of you, I know I have, at 2 in the morning are like, well, if this happens, I'll do this, and if this happens, I'll do that, but what if this happens, but what if that happens? And they all end being like homeless under a bridge with living with cats, you know? They just don't go well, right? So this is kind of a stepping stone metaphor. So we talked about all of us are okay at this moment, right? And we might have something in front of us that we're facing. Maybe we have some medical testing, or maybe there's a family situation going on. So we know what we know right now on this stepping stone. And so we're gonna stop here, and we're gonna breathe, and we're gonna count, and we're gonna distract ourselves, and we're gonna have gratitude, or whatever we need. And then when we get the next piece of information, we'll take the next step, and it might be on this path, it might be on this path. So we have to wait for the doctor to call back, and then we'll decide the next stone. And when we get into trouble is when we're 20 stones down on every path. And so that's just another metaphor to think about, kind of coming back to the moment and knowing that I'm okay now. And that running scenarios, I don't know about you, but almost all the scenarios I run don't happen. So I just spend a lot of time spinning my wheels. Questions? Okay. Don't look, you'll get dizzy. Okay. Some people, another tip for some people is to designate a worry time or a worry place. So if you feel like you need to get the worry out, pick a time and a place to do it with a start and an end time. You can write down all your worries if you want to, and then decide that once I get up from this chair, I'm going to stop. Some people don't like that because it gets a little, they get really creative. So you can decide if it works for you. If you worry in bed though, do get out of bed because you don't want to associate bed with worry. So get up and have a cup of tea in your calm down chair and then go back to bed. All right. And then I mentioned that meditators have a stronger and thicker prefrontal cortex than those of us that don't. So we know that meditation is good. How many people here like regularly meditate? Good job. Okay, so a bunch of you do. I know I should and I don't. So I think that's the rest of us. So I'm going to, I think you all have something to eat in front of you if you chose to do that. I'm going to take you through mindfulness with eating because we all eat. So maybe one meal a day we can try out mindfulness with eating. And I'm going to walk you through a way that you can add a little bit of meditation presence to your day. Okay. So I'm just going to read you through this process and you can follow along with me. So first have a look at what's in front of you and notice its texture and notice its color. Now close your eyes and explore the food with your sense of touch. What does it feel like? Is it hard or soft? Grainy or sticky? Moist or dry? And notice that you're not being asked to think, but just notice different aspects of your experiences using one sense at a time. This is what it means to eat mindfully. And before you eat, explore this food with your sense of smell. What do you notice, if anything? And now go ahead and take a bite. And chew slowly, noticing the actual sensory experience of chewing and tasting. Remember, you don't need to think about your food to experience it. You might want to close your eyes for a minute to focus on the sensations of chewing and tasting. Notice the texture, the way it feels in your mouth. And notice if the intensity of flavor changes from moment to moment. And take about 20 seconds to slowly finish this bite of food, being aware of the simple sensations of chewing and tasting. And then if you want more, go ahead and repeat the process. Anybody want to say anything they noticed? Okay, so yes?
Chewing one at a time, it tastes better.
Yeah, doesn't it? Yeah, she said it tastes better when you chew it one at a time. So this might be one way to get a tiny bit of meditation in your day. Okay. If you like meditation or you want to learn to try, YouTube has tons of guided meditations, so you can just play around for free. There's also apps for your phone. They're fairly expensive, but Calm is one of them, and the other one's escaping me at the moment, but you can just type in meditation apps, and they usually give you like a few free sessions before they charge you a bunch of money. So that was the toolkit that I have to share, and so I'm hoping that at least some of those will, will be supportive to you. And we have time for questions if anybody has any. Yes.
Depression. Could you address depression?
She asked if I could address depression. Do you have a specific about it or just in general?
Quite often, we're volunteers, as most everybody here is, and we know, studies have shown that after open heart surgery
Mhm.
or any kind of a heart issue, people, after being scared, they become depressed about it.
Yeah,
You know, all of a sudden their immortality is staring them in the face.
yeah,
And we do try to reassure the family members, you know, that if that happens, you know, it's not unnatural.
yeah.
But what kind of tools can we offer, or what that we've experienced? You know, sometimes there's anger, sometimes there's depression,
Mhm.
sometimes there's just withdrawal. You know, people react
Yeah.
to having heart issues.
Yeah.
What are some of the tools in the toolbox? I understand the anxiety and the stress, but what about depression? I think depression is a little bit different than that.
Yes, it is,
But
yeah.
I could be, I don't know.
Yeah, depression is different because we're talking about this end of the curve. So I've just been talking to you about this end, and so your question was about depression, and what are the tools. So do I have it right that most of you are volunteers because you've had heart stuff, so you're mentors for other people?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So a couple of things to say about that. So depression would be a whole other presentation, but I'll address it. The best tool you have is you. Because you probably remember when you went through it, meeting someone else who got through it probably meant the world to you. So I would use whatever comes up for you, because we can't duplicate that. As far as depression, you're right, it's normal, and you probably know more than I do, but I think there's a physiological depression piece also that happens. So for some people, medication might be a solution temporarily or more longer term. So for both anxiety and depression, our brain tends to lie to us. So for anxiety, it tells us, oh my God, do something, do it now, fix it, it's terrible. And depression tells us, why bother, it's not worth it. And so for both sides of the scale, that's why I put that up there, we have to kind of go against what our brain is telling us until we move towards the middle. So for depression, when the brain says don't bother, we need to bother. And so it's little things. It's, okay, today you're gonna get out of bed, shower, and take 20 steps. And if that's all you do all day, that's fine, but you have to do that. And so it's pushing through the opposite of what the brain is telling us in small, measurable ways, because if you have too big of a goal, then it's gonna feed the belief that it was too much, as it wasn't worth it, yeah. So I'm not sure as volunteers how much you can do that, but you can certainly tell stories about being depressed yourself and what you did and how you got through it, so they can see that besides what their brain is telling them, right, checking out our thoughts, there's a reality that is different than what they're thinking.
So as far as caregivers are concerned, because about half of us are the people with the heart issues and